afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be here for the Tabs3 virtual user group meeting from Attorney Computer Systems for February of 2018, the month that couldn't decide what to be. It's currently what, Mary Jo, 40 degrees out there? It was 80 degrees last week, so 46. Our official report from the weather station is 46 degrees in Dundee, Michigan. Today we are talking about finance charge. Mary Jo is going to tell you how to set it up and how to use it. And I am going to talk about what to do and what to consider when it's time to change rates. I am going to press the series of magic buttons. There's always a series of magic buttons. It's never just one. And I'm going to get us out of here and back to Tabs so that Mary Jo can talk to us about finance charge.
Okay. So we always have those late payers that don't want to pay their bill, and sometimes we want to be able to collect a little bit of interest on that outstanding balance over a period of time. So we can set this up to charge that finance charge. We can have multiple finance charges, so we don't have to always have the same rate. You might have some clients that you're going to charge, 6% or 2% or 3% or whatever that is. You can set up multiple levels of finance charge and then assign them to the proper matter in that way. So we're going to talk about how to set those up and then how to apply those to a matter, so then at the next statement that's late by however many days you say, it will then go ahead and calculate that charge. So the first thing that we have to do if we want to assess finance charge is we have to go underneath our setup tab and go into customization, and we have to actually activate it because it's not activated unless we turn it on. So underneath our options tab, no, I always have the wrong one here, our rates tab, there we go. I was going to go there first, and it's always the second one I go to. Right here on our finance charge section, we have to decide that yes, we're going to assess finance charge. So we have to go ahead and check that box. And then we have to say, if you want, I guess we don't have to say, but if you'd like a minimum amount that the finance charge will be applied to. So if you've got less than 50 cents or something like that, or you're not going to charge a finance charge on anything over $10, something like that, under $10, I should say. You can set a minimum if you want. So you can do that, or you can set, I'm sorry, that's not, I'm saying that backwards. This minimum amount here is the minimum amount of finance charge you want to charge. So if you have a minimum amount of 50 cents that you're going to charge, that's what this is. So it's not any based on the percentage, it's a minimum of 50 cents. We're not going to put any finance charge on unless it's at least 50 cents, and we're going to bill that minimum of 50 cents. And if you want to bill that minimum amount, you can check that box. So that would be there. You also can say whether or not it is subject to finance charge. So if a client is subject to finance charge, you can check that as well. If you're unclear about how these are or what these mean, because after we have our session here, you might forget this little yellow question mark. Oops, and it's not in there. I need to go to the other one, Paul. Can I get into, I'm going to jump over to, just go to tabs real quick just to get our help here. We don't have our help set up in our in our software here. Whoops, so let me go, and I probably am not, I'm guessing people may be in here, but let's take a look, because we can cancel, and we can still browse, and we can still go to help when we get to the rates tab, all to show you that you have these buttons here available so that when you go to the rates tab here, you can go in and see exactly what it means if I hit check the assess finance charge, or if it's subject to finance charge, you can see that that is going to say yes. If that box is checked, then the computation will be based on the client's outstanding balance, including previous finance charges. So when we have the subject of finance charge, it's going to calculate on top of that. So let's say they had a previous balance of $100 plus they had a finance charge of, whatever, 50 cents the last statement. Then it's going to do $100.50, and the next finance charge will be on that. So it's compounding. So that's what that would mean. Any of the other options here that you have, again, the yellow question mark is very good to come back in and see if it's the bill, the minimum amount, finance charge rates. All of those things are in here. And so that even works in customization. So that was the point I was trying to get to, that you can come in there and you can see that based on that yellow question mark for that. Then you set up your rates, and you can set up to 5. So here's where we're saying this has it set up as 12% and 18%. And again, you can go in and calculate that out however you need to do that for as many different rates as you need here, up to 5. So once you have set that, so I'm going to say that we're not going to compound that, but we're going to assess finance charge. You also can set the client defaults in here to assess the finance charge. So this is if you want every new client that comes in to automatically be set to assess finance charge, you can set that here, and you can set the default rate. So we can say that the default rate for any new client that comes in is 12%. Or if you want to manually set that, you can leave this unchecked, and then anytime a client comes in, then you can pick and choose which matters are going to get finance charge assessed on them. You also have the ability to say how many days is this going to take? Is it 30 days? After it's 30 days late, that's when we're going to start assessing, 45, 60, whatever those days are in here that you want to start the finance charge calculating, you can set that in here too. And again, these are the client defaults. We'll also have this ability to do this on the matter level. And then the last thing here that you can set is whether or not you want the finance charge to be applied first. We want to pay that first all the time, or last. So in our instance, I think we have it last, but you can decide what you want. Do you want to pay your fees, your expenses, advances, fees first, and then the finance charge, or do you want the finance charge first? So that's where you can set that as well, and then we save it. So once we have our finance charge set up, I'm not going to, it was already set up, so we're going to leave that there. Then we can apply it to each matter. So if we wanted to come in and assess a finance charge for this matter, for instance, we are going to go over to, in this one, it is our billing options. There we go. We can come over here to our finance charge, and we can say for Michael Larson, we're going to assess his finance charge. We have 2 different rates here that we set up, but again, you can do up to 5. We'll say that he's going to be the 18%, and we'll say that he's going to be calculated after 30 days, and we will apply it to the finance charge last. We'll pay our advances, expenses, and fees first, then we'll pay the finance charge. And then you would save it. And then that will automatically start calculating that after it's 30 days past due on whatever that balance is. Now, if I had compounded it over in customization, then that would also include that interest, and it would keep calculating that out. So that's how we can set up that finance charge matter by matter, and then you can save it. And then that will then be on that matter. And again, if it was the default, if you make that client default page, it would automatically be assessing at whatever level you said, and it would be at the rate, and then you can always come in and change it to a different rate if you needed to. So that's where you can assess that finance charge. Now, one last thing that I want to show you is if you are integrating with General Ledger, you also would then have to come into your General Ledger integration setup, and you would have to tell where that income is going to go. So when we configure our payment integration, we also have a section as to where is that finance charge going to be applied. What account are we going to post that to? It's not fee income, it's not expense income or advance income. This is maybe the interest income or miscellaneous income, and we can dump that, or you can create an account that says finance charge income, whatever you want to do in General Ledger, and we can bring that in, and then you'll choose your bank account and your finance charge income or whatever you have over there, and then a receipt. And that way, when a payment comes in and it's breaking it down and posting to General Ledger, we're also telling it where that will go. So that's the last piece of that as to where the finance charge will go. Now, I don't know if you saw when I was in our tabs, and I'm going to pop back over there in that help, because there was a really good article in there on the help that had a finance charge overview. And I also want to point you to that direction. I think I can let's just go back into customization here, and we'll get back in there so we can go right into the finance charge. But on this page, down at the bottom, when I was on the options tab, rates tab, down here, there was a Knowledgebase article. There was actually, when I was in finance charge, finance charge overview. So there's one in there. I know when you type in under your search and help, under finance charge, there's an overview there. So there's lots of different information on exactly how is it going to apply it, when, where, what it's going to do. All of those things are in this article and can also help you with that. But our talk today, I think, was on setting it up.
Right.
I think that's how that'll get you going. If you have any questions, you can, ask either one of us, and we can help you with that.
Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that when you go in and you talk about finance charge, this can provide amusing results if you don't understand it, because it wants that finance charge.
Oh, you were there.
I was there?
Billing options at the bottom.
Okay.
It's hours.
It's
per annum.
Per annum. In other words, this is what would work out to be 2% per month, or 18 would work out to be 18% per month. And the other thing to understand, and they kind of make it obvious now, I don't think they did before, it's not looking for 0.24. A lot of people think of 0.24 as being 24%. They want the whole number. They want, if it's 24%, they want it to be 24.00. So it can provide amusing results when you get a finance charge of 1 penny on a huge.
Or the other way.
Or the other way.
You're getting like a huge finance charge because it's, you're doing it what you wanted per month rather than per annum. So be careful with that.
Now I'm going to talk about what to do when rates change, and the reason I'm talking about this is because it always happens at the first of the year. People ask about this, and I really want people to think about this a little bit before the first of the year. Here's what happens typically. You renegotiate with your clients, especially in the insurance defense industry or the corporate client legal practices. You renegotiate rates usually on a yearly basis, and so on January 1st you want the rate to go up, or maybe down, but usually up. And so if you have thought about this ahead of time, it's much easier to set it and forget it than it is to go back in after the fact and say, oh my gosh, the rates were supposed to have gone up. Now people have been entering January time. So first, let's look at all the different ways you can get rates into the system. If you go to set up a timekeeper, we have these rate code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now you can also go into the client and simply say that every timekeeper gets a certain rate, and that's done here on this rates tab. And so you can, this is where you set up timekeeper, that this matter is being charged timekeeper rate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or you can have an hourly rate that applies to everybody. You also have the ability here to say, you also have the ability to set it up here by timekeeper level, okay? And finally, we have the ability, and I'm going to jump out of this one because Mary Jo has told me I'm still in hours and I need to get over to the sample data. We also have the ability to set it up on a matter-by-matter basis using rate charts. So if we pull up a matter, and we'll just go into this one from Michael Larson, and we go over to rates, we have this place to define rate tables. Now, when we're putting in rate tables, so I'm going to go ahead and get a new, what am I doing here, Mary Jo? I'm going to go here. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. When we go in and we say timekeeper 1 has a rate of $100 an hour, and we save that, we have the ability here and in the timekeeper file to set a effective date of new rate, and what you'll notice is there's a rate and a new rate field. So if timekeeper 1 earns $100 an hour now, and timekeeper 1 is going to start earning, for at least for this matter, $105 starting in January 1st of 2019. Yeah, I'm dating myself, aren't I? We need to put that effective date in. And so what this is telling the system is all time that's entered with a transaction date before 1/1/2019 should get a rate default of $100 per hour, and all transactions that are put in with a transaction date of after or on 1/1/19 should get an effective rate of $105. Now you'll notice if we get back out of here and go back into the timekeeper file, you'll notice that this also is able to be set up there. So if we go into the timekeeper file and we say everybody that's got timekeeper number 1 working for them and has hourly rate 1 set up as the rate that they should be charged, as of 1/1/19, oops, where am I here? As of 1/1/19, we want that to be $260, let's say it is. Same sort of concept is that anybody that's got timekeeper number 1 and hourly rate 1 as their matter default will be charged $250 an hour when Michael Jensen works on their matter before 1/1/2019 and $260 an hour after. Now here's the scenario. You set this up sometime before this effective date of new rates and sometime before anyone would be putting time in for after that period. And what you end up with is a situation where the timekeepers, when they're putting their time in, or whoever is putting their time in, it's just plain going to default to the right rate based on the date of the transaction. And that's important because as long as you've taken the time to do this ahead of time and you know what the new rates are going to be for all the insurance defense clients and their rate charts and for all the hourly billing that are just using hourly rate 1 through 6, you can set this up and let it just fall where it may. Because in this scenario, any time that's entered prior with a date of prior to 1/1/2019 is going to be $250, and anything on or after that is going to be $260. You don't need to think about it. Now, the problem people have is they don't think about this until after timekeepers have started entering time in this new period. And then not only do you need to change it, but you also need to then go back and correct what has already been entered. And that can be sticky because, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Jo, but when you do that, you're saying change this rate for this timekeeper to this rate. And so you've got to know which client, which rate you're changing, what it was, what it should be. And it's very tedious at that point to go through client by client, matter by matter, changing timekeepers' rates, when you could have done it this way ahead of time and it would have just automatically filtered through.
Yeah, and you can go into change WIP transactions for a fee timekeeper and change all of their time. But if it's a special client that their rate isn't supposed to change, something like that, then it does get a little stickier.
Exactly.
If
you've done the work ahead of time, then you know that it's going to be right for all clients. Those that have special rates, those that have special rate charts, those that don't. If you have to do it after the fact, you really have to do some dissecting of what time has been entered so far and straighten it out on kind of a entry by entry basis. Not quite that granular, but if you've got those special rate charts for different matters, then you really have to look at it on a matter by matter basis or else you're going to be in trouble. So the key is set it this way ahead of time. Don't wait. Just set it this way ahead of time, and then it will just hash out exactly the way it should. But the second key is, if you forgot, first set this up so that everything going forward from that point is going to be entered right, and then you've got to go look at the stuff that was already entered and make sure that it's right and fix it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this Move Rates button. So now we're into, let's say, March of 2019. I know nobody wants to be in March of 2019 when we're not even in March of 2018 yet, but stick with me. You're into March of 2019, and now if you use this Move Rate button, it will simply move what was over here over to here and blank out the effective date. So when you're sure that there's no time to be entered yet for prior to that effective date, that 1/1/19, when we're sure that we're at a point where nobody's going to go back and want to backdate some time and have the rate be proper, then we simply move the rates and we're ready for the next period when you want this to happen. Now, what's the best time to move the rates? Next year in December when you're setting this up for next year's. Mary Jo's laughing at me. Why are you laughing at me, Mary Jo? Well, you can, but you're definitely certain that you need to do it then, and you're also pretty certain that at that point, if anybody's going back and trying to pull out 2018 time and bill it at the old rate, then they've got other problems just beside the fact that you're moving these rates. Now, Patty tells me we have a question. Patty, what do we have?
We actually have a couple questions, Paul. Michelle is asking, is the effective date the date of entry or the transaction date?
Transaction date. Very important thing to remember. I could be entering time still for 2018, even though it's January of 2019. So my date of entry would be January, but I'm entering December of 2018 time, and so I really want it to be December of 2018 rates. Okay. So the effective date of new rates is based on the transaction date.
Okay, and then Kelly is asking, when you use the rate table, what happens if you have a new rate for the second time? So if you started at 125 and then got a new rate 5 years later to 150, and now it's time to do another raise to 175.
You use the move rates button. I think she probably asked that before I explained the move rates button, because the move rates button says, okay, we're well past this cutoff, so we're going to move everything here over here, and now we have room for a new blank date for effective date of new rates, and everything's back to zero, so we can set up that new rate. So the only time that would ever be a problem is if you're still entering time from the first rate change, but I've never seen that be a problem. Any more questions, Patty?
No more questions.
Awesome. Very good. So that's it. That's the two topics, finance charges and changing rates. Next month, we're going to talk about, or Mary Jo, I should say, is going to talk about the statement layout designer, how to make your bills look pretty and look exactly the way you want. And I'm going to talk about the miscellaneous vendor and accounts payable and explain how you might want to set that up, how you might want to set up more than one, and just plain what it is. We want to make very certain that we mention today at this moment in time that if you are using version 16 of Tabs or Practice Master or APGL or Trust, those products will be sunsetted, or should I say that version will be sunsetted on June 1st of this year. So no longer will you be able to trade up. No longer will you be able to get support. It is really time to get off of version 16, or think about getting off of version 16 by that June 1 date if you still are on version 16. If you're on something that's a little earlier than version 16, well, you're already sunsetted, but 16 itself will be sunsetted on June 1st, and I think that's in anticipation of the fact that version 19 should be coming out either before or very close after that date. So be careful if you're on 16, time to think about getting out of 16 and into 18 or 19 if it's out by then. And of course, Patty's telling me that we have one more question. Patty, what do we have?
Actually, possibly two. Kelly, I see your hands raised. Did you have another question?
Yeah, because I use the table for my rates because we have multiple clients at different rates for different different timekeepers. And I just found that it's easier for me that way. So if I do this move rates, how do I, let's say I got a raise for a couple different clients. I'm just not really sure how to, if I do I just do it by timekeeper and it'll go in on anyone that has a secondary rate?
No, you have to pull the rate table up first.
Okay.
So let's say you have a bunch of clients that share rate tables.
And that's what I do. I say use existing table when I do the next one.
Yeah. So you're not sharing rates. And so
I have one primary table for each client. And that's the one when I say use existing table, I say go use, like I put 1.0 or 100.000 is the table for our client that starts with 100.
Gotcha.
So when I start the next client.
By using existing table, you're merely using that original table as a starting point, but it's no longer linked to that original table. If you had shared the table, you could still point to the 1.00 as the shared table, but then any changes you made to that 1.00 table would apply to anybody else that was also sharing that table. So the difference is, if you say shared and you say, I want to share with 1.00, and then in a year you go change the rates in 1.00, they will change for anybody else that's also sharing that table.
The table.
Whereas if you say use existing, it'll still go to 1.00 to get the table, but then
it won't
creates
update.
a brand new table. Exactly.
Okay.
So we do recommend shared tables, and it's not too late to go in and change that. The best time to change it is now. Change your tables from tables that are kind of standing on their own to shared, and that way when you do go to have rates raising, you can just change the table that everybody's sharing. Okay,
so I definitely want to stick with the shared, not existing. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so then, and then like,
the only time that you would use an existing for one of those clients is, you want to start off with that, but you know if later on something gets changed, you don't want to change that particular matter. So if you, most of the matters are going to share the main one, but you might have this one that you negotiated something different, and if that other table changes, this is always going to be their rates. That would be a good reason to use an existing, because then it won't update. It'll only update the shared.
Right.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
By the way, thank you so much. It's very painful when we go longer than 6 months without getting to actually talk to someone.
I think I was the last one that raised my hand too.
Did you get the trophy?
Did we send
I think we sent you a trophy. Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Thank
you too. Bye.
Okay.
Was there another one, Patty?
Nope, we are all set.
We are all set. Okay. So we'll go over here because, of course, we have to end every live broadcast with a visit to the Attorney Computer Systems website. And so I'm going to go to attorneycomputersystems.com. Notice my emphasis on that S there, because without it, you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to get to us. And if you click on or simply hover over the word videos, you will be taken to a list of all the video content that we have. Now, 4 of these are live events, just like the one that you're in right now. Our 3 virtual user group meetings, Tabs, again, where you are right now, Practice Master and World Docs. And I have my Coffee Pot webinar series. And then we also have 2 pre-recorded titles. We have Mary Jo's eBite video series, where she records one of these for each of the 3 products, Tabs3, Practice Master, and World Docs, every month. And these are short little 3 or 4 minute videos where we'll take something really cool and very easy to explain and very concisely explained and put it into a video. And then we all have our longer form Paul and Mary Jo show, where we'll take something that's we want to explain, but it takes a little bit longer. And we record one of these each month. And either I or Mary Jo will take 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes to explain something that's broader and takes a little bit more time to get into. Now, as you, and of course, we know what our virtual user group meetings are, and our Coffee Pot webinars are simply places where we introduce you to add-on products or add-on functionality, usually coming from a separate company that enhance the value of Tabs or Practice Master or World Docs. And so if you go to the More Info button, if it's a live event, you'll see information on our next scheduled event. You'll see a description of what the Tabs3 virtual user group meeting is, a description and times and links to register for our next live event, which is in March. As you can see, you have 2 links, but they take you to the same place. Some people just don't like to click on something that doesn't tell them where they're going. And then as you scroll down, you will find recorded versions of everything else we've ever done. Not this one, because we're currently recording it, so it's listed here as being currently in post-production. But as we scroll down, we'll see recorded versions of every other one that we've ever done. And literally, there are almost 1,000 videos on our website, all with content on Tabs3, Practice Master, and World Docs. Of course, you can also search. If we were looking, for instance, on emailing statements, we might type email and either go directly to something from the short list that pops up, or hit enter, or click on View All Results to get a more detailed description of what it is that we are seeing. So they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, except for leap year. Then they're there for 366 days a year. So please take advantage of them. They're there for you to enjoy with a glass of wine in front of a fire. That's the best way to watch them. Everybody have a good rest of the day, good rest of the month, and we will see you in March.